Good evening, everyone. Tonight we are finishing up a multi-night project of imaging the Horsehead and Flame Nebula, also known as IC 434. My name is Corey, and you're watching Astronomy. So tonight we're finishing up a multi-night project that ended up being about 5 nights in total, about 7.5 hours of total observation or exposure time, give or take, depending on what ends up being stacked, on the Horsehead Nebula, Flame Nebula, or the IC Index Catalog 434. It's an area that's in Orion that's just, if you're looking at Orion being sideways, where the Orion Nebula is in Orion Sword, this is kind of like above the belt, to the left of the belt, depending on which way you're looking at it. This is kind of as an add-on to the project that I did a few weeks ago of doing a new updated photo or image of the Orion Nebula with my newer scope that I've had for about a year now. I've just started using it here in the past few months, but I've had it about a year. I did a test on it when I got it and put it back right back away. And of course, using the Optilong L-Enhance dual band filter, and I just wanted to see what my newer techniques and imaging skills would bring to the table. And I think I've had a pretty good improvement over my last attempt at the object. This is kind of a multi-object imaging project where I'm kind of going through some of the other objects in the Orion Nebula, or in the Orion constellation, the next of which is basically the Horsehead and Flame Nebula. I've also worked on a new version of the Witchhead Nebula, which I haven't completed yet, and I'm not entirely sure how that's turning out. I may have to start that project over just because of the full moon has kind of messed with me a little bit, but we'll see where that turns out. That'll be in a future video. But tonight we're looking at the Horsehead and Flame Nebula. So these two nebula exist about 1,500 light years away. So just to put that in perspective, because sometimes our ability to understand these vast distances kind of get away from us, and we don't understand how far things actually are away. If you were to drive a car to the Horsehead Nebula, if you were to leave today and head out to travel that 1,500 light years, it would take you longer than the age of the universe to get to the Horsehead Nebula, over 14.5 billion years. So it's a long way away, even though it is in our celestial backyard. So pretty cool. So enough of my yammering. Why don't we get started? So here we are, late in the evening, early in the morning, depending on what your point of view is, and we have just finished up, hopefully, my last night on the Horsehead and Flame Nebula for the foreseeable future. Now, I don't say all that to say that I'm moving on from the Horsehead Nebula for a long period of time. I'd actually like to come back pretty soon and do a mosaic of basically the whole Orion complex. Get all of Orion, the whole constellation in, Bernard's Loop, the whole thing, all the way at the Witchhead. Basically, Betelgeuse to Rigel is what I'd like to do, and all that is encompassed in between. And I'd like to do it using my Evolux 82, which means I'm a very close-in images of the overall picture. So it'll take a lot of imaging. But I think in the end, it would be a pretty cool project to have that much of a zoom capability on the final picture when you get that huge the whole Orion complex in one photo. The amount you would be able to zoom in on individual pieces of not just the Orion constellation, but of all the nebula that are in the middle. That would be pretty cool. So hopefully that's something I'd like to come back to when I get more time. Really, it'll have to wait till when I have another mount that I can kind of dedicate to just doing stuff like that, and still, be able to pick out individual objects in the sky. So that's where we stand right now. I think we have, in the end, we're going to end up with about 7.5 hours of data. I'm not entirely sure of that. I've looked at some of the subs trying to figure out how many nights, how many exposures per night. I'm trying to get a rough estimate. 7.5 hours is what it's looking like. It really could have been closer to 10, but I keep having these guidance gremlins that pop up occasionally. So saying all that, we're going to use the magic of editing. We're going to skip through all the processing and we're going to jump to the picture. So from your perspective, it's instantaneous. Let's take a look at the image.